I'm Fred Stemmler. I'm here to talk about my experiences representing the Kiwanis to the Mason Athletic Department to bring student athletes to our Kiwanis meetings so they can be recognized for their achievements. My first meeting with Kiwanis, man, that's a long time ago. To me, at that time, and still today, Kiwanis is a membership of movers and shakers of the community. That's how I feel about them. And, you know, I never put myself in that category. So when Dr. Christensen asked me if I'd be a member, I was rather surprised, but jumped in, and then shortly after I got involved with the high school, the athletic department. So it's all been a win-win for me. Okay. How did the Kiwanis get involved with the Mason High School Athletic Department recognizing student athletes? It was started by Jack Flaherty, local icon in my mind, and his son Duke Flaherty. Duke played football at Mason High School. He played football in college. Jack played football in college. So it was natural flow of things that they decided, being Kiwanians, hey, let's recognize the football teams. And it was great, good programs. And then eventually Jack asked me to help him. He didn't like getting up in front of people. I mean, he did it great. He just didn't. He liked to be in the background. He's a very humble man, I think. Jack would do all the work, and I would just introduce him at the meeting. And then eventually Jack, who also was a past president, they stepped down from Kiwanis, both of them. I just inherited the program to keep it going. When Jack stepped down, it was mainly leaned towards recognizing football players. So when I took over, the first thing I did, I went to Scott Stemple, the new athletic director at Mason High School, about expanding the program to other sports, all sports, not just football. So Scott thought that was a good idea. Told Scott, from now on, you pick the programs. I'll give you dates. Scott, you tell us who's coming, and we'll set it up. Scott Stemple, the AD, puts an emphasis on athletes or athletic teams that don't play in front of big crowds, like cross country. They run out in the woods and the creeks, and nobody's watching them. So he uses the Kiwanian program as an opportunity to recognize student athletes that don't get recognition. They're kind of unheard of. And we bring both girls and boys teams. You don't have to be a state champion. It's just who the school picks. One year, this one young lady, first year she ever played the sport, pole vaulting, won the state title. And so Scott Stemple, the AD, called me and says, Fred, I'd like to bring a student athlete to Kiwanis because she gets no recognition and she's a state champion. So that's how we work this. There's no set guideline. Something happens and we bend to it and bring a program for these kids. And it's very important to the kids. The coaches and players feel like it's a special privilege to be invited to the Kiwanian meeting for these programs. We are talked about at school, in the sports field, at the cafeterias. The coaches will say to one another, hey, I had my team up at Kiwanis 2 weeks ago. You been there? I mean, they really consider it a good thing to be invited and their athletes to be recognized. And the assistant to the athletic director, it's a lady, Kathy Crotty, been there forever. In her office, she has a bulletin board, big one, and only thing on it is Kiwanian programs. And go and you'll see a whole history of what sports have been recognized since we started. And our programs go from one individual player and their coach to like all the seniors in a team. One year, we brought all the seniors from the football team. That was like 30 boys and the coaches. And so just so people know, the policy of Kiwanis, they'll cover the costs for 9 people. Anything over is covered by other individuals who volunteer to do it. So it doesn't put a strain on the Kiwanis when we do these big programs. Well, the years have gone by, a lot of them, and I've decided that it's time to pass it on to some of the new younger people. You know, we've got a lot of young people lately joining Kiwanis. And I think it's important to give them important tasks to keep them with us. And the two that I kind of picked and went to was Greg Stuckey. Fact is, Greg, he replaced an eye doctor, Tom Newell, who passed, a Kiwanian, and before that it was Doc Christensen. So there is a legacy there. And then Brent Spaley, I don't know how we met, but I thought these two guys, they're young, they're at the right age, perfect connection, and they're both in business, so when I ask them, and you know, it works both ways, this gives them contacts and gets them exposed. Officially, they did their first program when we had the cross-country team in about 3 weeks ago. And I'll stay involved for another year, 2 at the most, in the background. It's a realization that I'm aging and it's harder to do what I love to do. Oh, I could still do it, but I just think it's time to start training some new young. The 7th, 8th grade, we have a youth group, the Builders Club. One of my daughters, she was a nurse and been to Africa, and they asked her to speak to the Builders Club. So I said, well, I'm going to go. So here, and Alice, she's an RN, and she brought a friend, an RN. So we're walking down the hallway, and I trip and fall. Immediately, I'm surrounded by these young Builder Club kids. Are you okay? You know, we'll call the school nurse. And I looked up and I says, don't worry about it. I do this all the time, so I always bring traveling nurses with me. Of course, I'm a member of the stud table, and I'm not sure how we got the name, except that we're all old, I guess. And it just became a thing, the stud table. And the fact is, back, we had a lady that usually sat with us, way back many years ago, but I guess when she realized that name was going to stick, she went to another table. So it's all been a win-win for me, and I hope for the school and the Kiwanians.